Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming back to my channel, where I just want you to remember it only takes a few short minutes a day to physically rewire your brain through moments of mindfulness and insight. Today, you guys, we have got Devann all the way from the UK. It is late his time, and I super appreciate him being here. So let me tell you about Devann. Him and his partner, Jay, are founders of the Total Freedom Network. They are global business consultants who support entrepreneurs to optimize their business through accountability, which you guys know is super important. They realized that their business elevated after they paid for coaching. Hello, yes. And it wasn't the new info. Never is. There's never new info that's going to change your trajectory. It is the accountability in the community that support their growth. And I absolutely agree with that. So they created profit plans to support entrepreneurs and organizations to level up their productivity, efficiency, and profitability in their companies. They are on a mission to empower entrepreneurs to maximize their potential and create a life of total freedom. They believe that the key to success is accountability. Yes, absolutely, yes. And so everybody, welcome Devann. Devann, introduce yourself.
Hey, Stacy, and hey, everyone. It's great to be here. Great to be here. It's nice and chilly.
Nice
and chilly in
yeah.
London, but we keep warm. We keep warm.
So tell me about life before you hired for coaching, and then life after you hired for coaching.
Yeah, so that's a great way. Thank you. That's a great intro. So what one thing I would say is that before coaching, before receiving coaching, before even getting into like the entrepreneur space and really diving deeper into it, I personally was a sports science student, and Zay was in the military, and she was a pulmonary technician for the Air Force, and paths crossed where I was getting into a more of an entrepreneurial spirit, because I always knew I wanted to do something outside of just the 9 to 5 after my journey in sports science, and I still hold that like close to me. But as I left uni, I was like, okay, I want to pursue something entrepreneurial. I want to make a business with this, and really serve the people. So I actually became a holistic health practitioner, and associating myself with a company, so where I can do business while still pursuing like serving people on a health level, and that's actually where I met Zay actually. So Zay and we met at a business conference in Las Vegas. So it's funny because you just mentioned you're from Las Vegas. So I know it's crazy.
It's from Vegas.
It's great. We actually met like literally 2017 September. We met at a business conference, and we haven't looked back since then. We've been together since. It was funny because as soon as I got back home from the conference, like it was like 2 weeks later, and then we got to talking. After 13 hours of talking, it never stopped, and we've just been moving forward ever since. Yeah, and then we actually got into business together, because we was both part of a company doing business separately. But now we combined forces and started doing that together. And then as we was going down our journey of trying to figure everything out, I was like, okay, how do we do this? How do we do that? And then we kept getting into these high and low cycles. Like, oh, we're doing great, and then we're doing great, and then next thing you know, we realized, okay, what's missing? What are we not? Why are we trying to do everything ourselves? Like, what's happening right now? And so it was actually Zay who found a coach who kind of like struck her, and she's like, okay, I need to get coaching from this woman. And so she dived into getting coaching, and then she enrolled me into it later on because I was still driving the other health business we was doing. And so I jumped on as well to receive the coaching, and it was really life-changing because it kind of opened us up into a world in which we can really create a bigger impact in a more concise way, and really niche down and focus on okay, not just it doesn't we don't have to serve everyone, but there's certain people that get to be like we get to hold their hand, we get to serve them on a deeper level and hold ourselves to that fire as well. And that was so powerful for me because it made me like I actually had to have a kind of reflective moment for myself. I had to think to myself, okay, what type of leader do I want to be? You know, what's like, I had to really remind myself like what are my values, like what's actually important to me in my life. And oftentimes when all these things are happening in our life, there's so many ruts, so many pitfalls and like and failures that we experience in our life. We don't really take that time to ask ourselves those questions, like what's important to me, what do I value, and what can be a good habit for me that if I do this every day, it will really reap some great benefits. Because oftentimes we're doing habits that are not serving our higher self, not serving like what the level to which we can actually become. We're just doing things on a mundane, mediocre level, and it's like why why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we doing this to ourselves? So what Zay and I realized is that as we was going through our process of coaching, it was not only the community around us, but it's like the people that was associated with, like the proximity of people being in our ear and giving us that constructive feedback and really saying, okay, well, this is where you could probably tweak it, and giving and really not even being honest with us, being authentic, being honorable in that approach. And so this is something that these are values that we actually embody ourselves. So it's like, wow, this is really a missing link that not every, especially business owners, especially entrepreneurs, are not really. They know it's important, but they don't really raise the importance, raise the value level to a standard where it gets to be. And so that's why we know that accountability is the key, and willpower and discipline does not work. Because if you're planning to do life or planning to do business for a long term, you can't stack your odds on a short term bet. Like willpower
Sure,
and discipline that only
absolutely.
lasts for a moment, but you
Yeah.
don't need more discipline. You just need more of the habit of directing and managing the discipline. And so that's where accountability comes in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. And I love how you said that, you guys met and then 13 hours, spoke, and then 13 hours later, like that was it. It was done. And it reminded me of the quote, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I think that you
Yeah.
guys embody that. And I just absolutely love that for you. What does accountability mean to you? What did it mean before the coaching and then after the coaching?
Oh wow. So that's a great question. So before the coaching, accountability, it really just meant holding myself to the fire, because accountability was personal, you know. So it's like accountability was like just holding myself to the fire, like following up to with my client when I say I'm going to, or waking up on my alarm when I say I'm going to. Just really like keeping my word to myself, and keeping a promise to myself based on an outcome that I actually want, a desired outcome. So that was what I viewed as accountability beforehand. And so after coaching, and not just after coaching, after like reflecting on the coaching as well, and not just the coaching,
Sure.
like reflecting, I
Yeah.
realized that accountability is literally is that is that it's that daily habit of supporting and guiding yourself, directing and managing your mind, and structuring your values, your priorities and your goals towards whatever that outcome is. Okay,
Yeah.
and it gets to be impactful, it gets to be worthwhile. So
Yeah.
accountability does not come without a vision. Accountability does not come without a goal in mind. And you can't be accountable for something that you hold no value for, or something that's not gonna be fulfilling in the end. It's not gonna work. It's just not. Like you can say you can say, I'm gonna eat healthy for 30 days straight. Okay, and then what?
Yeah, why?
You know, yeah, why? Like you need to know these why. You need to know why. You need to know how you're gonna do it. You need to know what it's gonna do for you. It's like really taking analysis and really taking inventory on what that's gonna mean for you for it even to matter. So
And talk about accountability beforehand, because I think the difference between before and after the self-reflection is so fascinating. Because what you said before was holding my feet to the fire. And then you said it's really having, looking at my mindset and having that all aligned and having a reason and all of that stuff. I didn't hear holding my feet to the fire. So internally, how did you treat yourself to get accountability before, and how do you do it now?
yeah, so before it was a bit of a mess. Before it was a bit of a mess. I was where do I start? So I would say I was I'm very disciplined, but it was in bouts, and it never was always a long-term pursuit. I never except for my studies. So my studies are, let's say for example, I was disciplined in my studies, but I never approached it with the same excellence, the same attention to detail, the same focus that I did with something that was a long-term pursuit. So what I mean by that is with my health. Oh, I'm very accountable for my health because I already, because even as a sports science student, I had enough information and enough exposure to what would become of me if I was to do these certain actions and to do these certain habits. And there's other places where I might have been disciplined, but I wasn't consistent in actually doing those activities that were going to help me. So I was good in the health of my life, but then when it came to like socially or financially, and then my mental was good actually. When it came to socially and financially, those were areas where it wasn't as consistent. So
And so
but I put intent. Yeah.
when you weren't consistent, what was your mindset? What did you say to yourself? It's interesting because it sounds like to me, when you said I held my feet to the
Mm.
fire, that there was probably some like beating up, right? Some
Oh my,
self-flagellation of why
yes,
can't I
yes,
just do this? What's the wrong with me? I can do it here. Why can't I do it here? And how has that
yeah.
changed now, if it's changed?
Yeah, it has changed. So it was a lot of self-sabotage, and it's really a case of being accountable is also taking responsibility. And what I used to do was brush off everything as if it wasn't like there. I was like, oh, it's okay. Like, no, it's not okay, because now it's gonna come back, and now you got to deal with it. Like, it's not going anywhere until you directly take responsibility and handle it. And so that's why I had to. The bridge to accountability was me stepping into my leadership. So realizing that I am responsible for this 100% of the time. It doesn't matter if, let's say, if there's no more water in the fridge, or there's no more bottles of water, and oh, I meant to have my quota for water today, or let's say if I have a scheduled meeting at this time, or I missed my alarm, you should have the backup, maybe. It's like there's no excuse. This is what was in my schedule. This is what I set out to do. So I get to, no matter what, I get to manage my mind around that goal, getting that goal done, taking that action in the most efficient manner possible. And whatever happens outside of me, it doesn't matter, because it's about what I'm choosing. It's not about the circumstances. We're not like, when we get to we get when it comes from like discipline and willpower and whatnot to accountability. it's that bridge between, okay, now I'm not a baby anymore. I'm now an adult. So I'm not I'm not I'm not governed by a circumstance. I'm governed by choice. And
Mm,
so now
yeah.
and so now we step into our power with accountability because we have a choice. Everyone has a choice, and it's now you're making that conscious choice to do better in every aspect of your life. And so that was the shifting point for me personally.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I've most of my clients are people pleasers. And so when I try to help them set up some sort of self love, self care routine and say, what are you doing for your own mental health? What are you doing? Are you reading anything? Are you listening to anything? Like, when do you take time to just sit and breathe? And they're like, well, I schedule time for myself, but then something always comes up. And it's like, well, if you're not going to do it for yourself, who's going to do it? Like, who's that's not how that works, and then they just
Exactly.
keep putting it off because, oh, the kids need that, or the partner needs this, or the PTA called, or bake sale, or whatever. And I'm like, you're going to run yourself into the ground. And then what? And then what?
And then what?
And so, yeah. And
Yeah.
then what? If you're burned out and you are, suffering from massive depression because you're burned out and your body is like, I'm done. I'm done. I can't run on cortisol and caffeine any longer. Like, I just can't do it. Then what? Like, who's going to pick up all of that stuff? And so it's a matter of managing this stuff and understanding that there will always be stuff. There will always be dishes.
Hmm.
There will always be laundry. There will always be bills. There will always be. What are you doing to make yourself optimal to handle the things that will always be there? And yeah, that self
Yeah,
accountability is
it's
huge.
very interesting. It's very interesting. It's like it's a conversation of negative motivation in a sense. So it's like, okay, what is the worst? What's the worst possible case scenario? Like, what if this happens? What now? It's like you turn those what ifs into what now. So it's like, what if I can't make it to this? What now? It's like, what's the repercussions? Like, it gets to be some, because oftentimes we shun away from it because maybe when we was younger, or maybe, who knows, we was like either ridiculed or castrated or given negative feedback for whatever action was that whatever action that was, or whatever thing we thought was important, but we didn't do it well, and they said, and we didn't get like we didn't get that reward that we thought we was going to get,
That
or we didn't
dopamine
get any
hit.
praise,
Yeah.
that dopamine. And it's really a case of us having to really be kind to ourselves and really taking control of our life. That's why we say manage our mind and manage our schedule, because that's literally you have to centralize your thoughts in order to actually hone in on what that your value system is. And because every decision is neurologically linked. So it's like, you indecisiveness, exhaustion, burnout, this is still happening in your mental first. It's still
Yeah.
all is
Oh, for sure.
mind. All is mind. So it's like, when we're not accountable for our decisions and actions, it can actually lead to greater fatigue and exhaustion. It can actually lead
Absolutely.
to greater levels of indecisiveness, and it can lead to you getting into a rut day by day by day, and you just digging a deeper hole, because
Yeah.
it's a case of, before I was eating, not me personally, but like, let's say if I'm eating white I mean let's say I'm eating white bread, or I don't know, refined like a lot of sugar. Let's say if I'm eating a lot of sugar,
Sure.
right? And that sugar is gonna cause you a whole lot of stress, but and you know it. It's not by circumstance. It's
But
by you.
but it also feels good in the moment. So how do you fight that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
and
Please.
how do you fight? Yeah, how do you fight it on a daily basis? It's not by discipline, because you said that yesterday, but you still did the thing. You still
Yep.
did. You still had the 10 grams of sugar in. You still had what you said you wasn't gonna have. So now you got to start again. and then until you complete level 1, you can't go to level 2. And so you have to keep stepping, but you have to know what your goal is, and you have to know as you're moving into the day, okay, this is the direction I'm going to. Because oftentimes, like, we're going in life without no direction, but it's like,
Yeah, we're
it's not
reacting
it's
to
not anyone.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
we're
not
reacting
anyone
here,
else's.
putting out fires.
Exactly, and it's not anyone else's responsibility to direct you in the way that you know in your heart of hearts that you want to go. It's no one else's responsibility except for yours. So how do you combat that? You set clear goals. You create a structured routine. You find out what are the things that are going to help you manage your mind in the best way possible throughout the day, and what can you do now that you believe that you can probably do tomorrow, and what do you believe you can do tomorrow that you could do the next day. You have to start start from you don't have to start from the top. You can start from the bottom. It doesn't have to be throw yourself in, because what I learned is that I'm really big on martial arts and like samurais and stuff like that. So I learned this thing from some ancient samurai, and they mentioned that excellence does not come from intensity; it comes from consistency. Because
Yeah,
again, with intensity, you're gonna do all the things, but you're not even gonna last long. You're
burn
gonna
out
you're gonna throw
fast.
your best, you're gonna throw all your best moves on the in the first day, and then you're out for 3 days resting. Whereas
Yeah.
you could have been doing the same basic foundational skills, and then you last in 3 days, and next thing you know, you're as good as you were on the first day. So you can actually put out more energy, as much energy as you would have as if you applied that intensity on the first day. You could accomplish more.
Yeah, I love that. I think that especially Americans, hustle culture, it's all or nothing. There's no in between. It's either I'm in or I'm out. And that's
Yeah,
not true. It can be both. It can be
it's true.
and. It doesn't have to be either or. And I think that what I know to be true, especially for Americans, is we don't do the small steps well because we want it all now and we don't want to have to like build up to it. But what you said is so true. Um, you know, the people say like expert level is 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours of anything makes you an expert. And yet we want to put in 10 hours and say it's 10,000. Well, that's not how that works. That's not how that works.
Exactly,
That's how you burn
exactly.
out fast, right? That's your intensity, not consistency. And I think that a lot of times people confuse the two. They conflate the two for being the same thing, and it's not. It's not at all. So, what is a trick for your mindset to shift? Let's talk about like that 10 grams of sugar, where they've
Hmm,
eaten
hmm.
it 10 grams for years and years and years and years and years. And then, here comes today when they said, I'm not eating 10 grams, I'm eating 5 grams. What do they need to do around that in order to be successful?
Okay, so has one thing that I say. Well, let's do a little like exercise. So
Okay.
from the top of your head, not what is your top 10 values? What are your top 10 values?
Authenticity, empathy, compassion, humor, connection, um, honesty, trust, loyalty, um, openness. Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay, and so from those top 10 values, what are your top four?
Authenticity, connection, humor, um, and trust of some sort.
Okay, and from those top four, what are your top two?
Probably connection and authenticity.
Okay, now with the connection and authenticity, what are three things you can do today that will allow you to express connection and authenticity?
I'm doing it right now, which is that's what's amazing about this podcast, right? Is because I'm connecting to
Mhm.
somebody on the other side of the world who I've never met, and I'm loving this conversation, and I'm showing up as myself, and not trying to pretend that I know anything about what you're talking about, but my experience only. And then we're having this dialogue right now. So that's, yeah, this is absolutely embodying those two things.
Yeah, so and so that's what this is just a kind of an intro step into actually
Yeah.
doing the thing. So this is what we walk our clients through sometimes, where we just want them to get them thinking and get what's out of their mind, like out into the open or out onto the paper. Usually usually we say write a list of those of 10 things that you value the most, and then label them between most important to um least important, and then you can and color code them, and do a lot of these activities which is going to get you stimulated in different ways. So what's valuable in your spiritual life, what's valuable in your business life, what's valuable in your health life, and etc. So we like to get a broad range, because there's a lot of things that attack us through, not even attack us through the day, but they just pop up throughout our day, and it's just the reality of it. But we have
Yeah.
to be able to manage and control the stuff that we can control, which is the things that happen within our sphere, so that's something that we like to get people to centralize their thoughts, and then really prioritize what are the tasks that you get to do that's going to move you forward today, and then and then
I
do that. Yeah.
I love that as far as people pleasers go, because that makes just so much sense to me of like, what are your values? What do you want to experience every day? Whatever that is, and then say no to the rest of it.
Mhm.
Or if you want to contemplate it, does this add to my values or take away from my values? Does it allow me to feel these values or not feel these values? And if it doesn't, don't take it on. Don't say yes when you absolutely can't show up with those values. And there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. And don't apologize for it either. My goodness, the amount of like,
because
oh,
because
sorry.
we don't need to do everything. We don't need to do any, like we get to do what's going to be impactful and worthwhile for our lives.
Yeah.
That's as simple as it can get. But then we complicate things because we're piling on too many things, and we don't even know half the things we're doing. We're like, oh,
Or we don't want, yeah, we don't even want to do them.
yeah, like, why
Right.
am I in the kitchen again? Like, why am I in the fridge? Like, what's happening? It's
Oh,
like,
yeah. 1,000%. When my kids wouldn't finish dinner, I'd just be like, "Oh, that's what wasn't even hungry, but can't let the food go to waste." It's interesting. It's interesting when you're not watching your
it
mind that what happens and what goes off, for sure. And that's why I teach my clients, like, watch what you're thinking. Just watch it. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to stop it. Just watch it initially, because it's
Mhm.
fascinating what flows through your mind, whether it's the same thoughts as yesterday, which is like 99.9% of our thoughts are the same every day, you guys. If
Mhm.
you are feeling like you're stuck in a rut, that's one place to start, because you're probably living the same day over and over and over again. To me, that sounds miserable. Um, right? Or the intrusive thoughts, like, "Oh, what if I just drove over this hill or over this cliff?" Like, watch them. They're not real, but your brain is just trying to
Mhm.
create activity, because that's what your brain does. But people take it as is honest truth. And I think that that's one key of this is like you have to realize that your brain lies to you. And it isn't true just because you think, oh, I can't waste this food, so I need to eat it. Or I'm hungry when actually I'm thirsty or I'm bored or I'm trying to numb something that I'm trying to escape, right? Which is definitely my story, for my emotional eating. And just got it. You just have to be present. And again, go
Mhm.
back to those values of, does this behavior right now that I am exhibiting, that I am doing, that I am in the middle of, fork to mouth, does this go towards my values? or does this lead me away from my values? And if it leads you
Yeah.
away, reconsider what you're doing. And if you don't, that's okay, but don't beat yourself up about it either. Just adding on top of that, right? Because when you do that, that weight is crushing. That weight is absolutely
Yeah.
crushing of the shame and the guilt.
Yeah, like the perception of failure is really, the reality is feedback. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, what is
Oh,
this
yeah.
teaching me? That's really what it is. And it once we kind of liberate our mind from these kind of, from not even, is I call it fears, because they are, when I don't know if you heard this across it, where it's false evidence appearing real for fear.
Yeah. Yeah. That acronym. Of course.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's really true, because again, sometimes what we see is what we believe, but really it's the opposite. It's like what we believe is what we get to see, and what we believe is what we're projecting, because our belief is,
Yeah.
is really tied to our feelings, and it's a mind body connection. So we really get to hone in on, what do I believe about my health? What do I actually like? We have to really get down to, and it's a value system. It's a value system, and because people are not often aligned with their value system, that's what leads to needing more discipline. That's what leads to decreased willpower. That's what leads to non-accountable actions, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then that's what leads to overeating, over drinking, gambling addiction, shopping
Burnout.
addiction, sex addiction, any of that, just to numb out those feelings of failure
Mhm.
and shame and guilt, and because you're not disciplined enough, and I failed again. And okay, the diet starts Monday. Well, the diet
Yeah.
could be right now. Like, you could choose now, and don't even call it a diet. Don't even call it a diet. Just say, I am changing my behavior right now. So what does that look like? That could look like putting the fork down. That could look like putting the fork down for 20 minutes and then seeing if you're still hungry. That could look like taking an extra glass of water today. It doesn't have to be this huge difference just today. It can
Exactly.
be a stack of little, like tiny, tiny steps, my friends, tiny, tiny steps. Think about when you were learning to walk. It's the same way in the habit change. It can't be all or nothing. You just didn't get up one day and run a marathon. That you didn't. You didn't. You took some sort of step, you fell over. Your mom probably picked you up. Try it again. Maybe you got a step again and fell over. Maybe you hit your head,
Mhm.
maybe you didn't. It doesn't matter. But eventually, if you are somebody walking around today, this was your process. And yet we kind of forget that. We forget that that was okay when we were little, but we get into societal conditioning and suddenly that isn't okay to do. It's all or nothing. It's wild how that happens.
Yeah, and it's like, what I think, one thing I just came to me now is, for the audience, like, what is one thing that you can work towards, that you can get excited about? And I say that based on, I was watching boxing on the weekend, and it was a big show. It was a big entertainment show, right? And everyone was coming to see this one fight. Everyone was coming to see this one fight that was building up for months, months. And these fighters have been training for weeks and weeks and weeks just for this one moment, and everyone came to see them. But what if that was subverted? What if that was the other way around? What if you had a big competition that's coming up? What if you had something worthwhile, like that you could say, oh, I finally reached my goal. I finally reached this. Like, how would, like, would you put yourself in the steps of that athlete? Would you put yourself in the steps of the coach? Would you understand that it's not all it's out, it shows itself to be, it's not just for entertainment purposes. This is real life. Like, the people that's boxing that you're watching, they're living their life, but are you living yours? Have you trained
Uh-huh.
yourself to live your life? You have to we get to train ourselves to live our life. It's very weird, because we've been so, like, programmed to not live our life, or live based on someone else's choice, but not by our choice. But Are we
Yeah.
training ourselves just like those athletes to live our best life? Because if we're not, that's gonna be a problem, and there's gonna be a lot of internal wars and external wars and a lot of things going on when we just don't know ourselves. That's what happens as a
Yeah.
result.
1000%. 1000%. When you are just waking up and going to a job that you hate every day, coming home, sitting down, eating, the same dinner and watching Netflix, you're not living, my friend, you're existing. If you've got nothing else in your life than just existing, I can imagine what life looks like internally for you. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be um, it doesn't have to be a huge boxing match. It doesn't have to be. It could be something as simple as like finishing a book that has sat on your bedside for the last 3 months. It doesn't have to be big. And yet we think, again, it's all or nothing. I either have to lose these 30 pounds or, whatever that is in stones, 15 stones, I think, or kilograms, in
KG.
kilograms. Or, yeah, sorry, metric versus imperial. Or I just sit on this couch like a bump on a log. Okay, well, what if you just got up and walked around for 5 minutes? What if you just put on your favorite song and danced like an idiot in your kitchen? What if you did that instead? I wonder what would happen. And then what if tomorrow you choose to do the same thing? I wonder what would happen. If you just picked up that book and read one page, what would happen? And people just discount that one step so much because it's not all the steps. But those boxers started somewhere. They started with one punch and did that punch a million times until they perfected it. And yet we can't seem to do the one step any longer. Talk about your programs and how this helps people.
Yeah, so within our program, so what Zay and I offer is profit power plans or profit plans. And so our main goal is, because it originated from working with entrepreneurs and business owners, because again, the end goal for a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs is to profit. And often things that get in the way of profit is the ability to be efficient and productive and work on the areas that's going to lead to greater profitability, and those strategies that's going to lead to that. And then we realize that again, it's accountability, is managing your mind, managing your schedule. And so that opens up a lot of people once they realize they can do that. And so what we offered is a profit power plans. It's a 6-month program where we have a course embedded there called our Venture Mind Academy, where we actually walk through the steps on how to think, do, and improve your way to greater success or greater profitability and a greater efficiency and productivity. And so what we do is we host accountability time block sessions where we'll be working directly with one-on-one with a solopreneur, or sometimes we do like large organizations where we work in groups, and we'll work towards what's gonna help them move forward. And we're gonna be working with them every day for the first 2 weeks, and then afterwards it's gonna be spread out across the next 6 months or so, or next 30 days, depending on what they choose to do. And we're gonna be honing in on their priorities, their tasks that get to be prioritized, and then we're going to help them follow through on those commitments, because whatever they prioritize is going to be attached to their goals. And so the fortune is in the follow-up, and without the follow-up, there's not going to be any true commitment. There's not going to be any true commitment. And so we're like your human version of Slack. we're like so.
That's a nightmare, Devann. I just hear it in my head.
So if you totalfreedomevents.com/profit power plans, then you can check out. You can actually book a profit planning call with us, and then we can go through a 30-minute session, just discussing with you, seeing which areas you like to be more efficient, more productive in your life, and which areas of accountability that you may be lacking, that you want support and guidance around. So that's the best way you can reach us. And I don't know if we can. We have another like free gift to send with your for your audience as well, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be like
Let
it's gonna be like an ebook about like 15 ways to be more profitable, efficient, through like joint venture partnerships, because we realize joint venture partnerships, that's kind of a form of accountability that
Yes, it is.
we has worked for us this year as well.
Amazing. Yeah. You guys, that'll all be in the description, of course. Of course. Devann, what is one of your favorite transformational um stories that you and they have participated has facilitated for your clients?
Mhm. So we hosted a workshop. I believe it was it was a few months back, and this is it was fun because it was a very intimate session. So we had about we had 4 people tuned in, four entrepreneurs tuned in to our workshop, and we dive all the way in, because it was only like a 1.5 hour workshop. But after that, literally, it really, personally, it was Tammy, and I believe, uh, sorry, I forgot the other woman's name, but she'll forgive me. But what we did is we helped them get more clarity around what their business is, because like what they really do in their business, they didn't actually know before coming into the workshop. So that they had it in place, but they didn't actually know, what is it I do in this business that I started. And
Oh
it
my
sounds wild.
gosh.
It sounds wild, but
Yeah.
yeah, but we realized that they needed support in terms of, okay, I'm starting this, I'm passionate about this, but I don't know what I'm doing. So he's like, okay, what's your we figured out how they can use not only software, technology, the stuff that they're weak in, as well as use their strengths and combining it. And after that, they've been just pushing on since, and they haven't messaged us back. They're just doing their own thing now. I'm like, okay, yeah, go on. I don't
Yes,
mind.
fly little bird. Yeah, I love
Yes,
it. I love it when my clients spread their little bird wings and fly the coop. That's, that's amazing.
yeah.
Fly
So
the
they're
nest.
moving, they're moving with a stronger mindset now, and because we tap them into some other resources where they can actually get more exposure around what they're doing as well, which is that's part of our accountability resources that we have in our course as well. So that's something that was supportive moving after, because whenever we set a goal or a task, we get to have things along the way that's supporting us along the way, whether it's tools, whether it's people, whether it's systems. And so that's what's missing. But we put that into the program where we're supporting people as soon as we speak to them, as soon as we have set the plan in motion, as soon as we have set the actions that get to be taking place, as soon as we establish the obstacles that get to be overcome. There's always going to be something every step of the way towards their goal. And that's what's
Oh,
been
I
supported.
love that. I love that so much. I love that so much. Um, Devann, tell people where they can find you and Zay, please.
Okay, so you can find us on if you can find us on YouTube at Total Freedom Network. That is Total Freedom Network. That's our YouTube channel. If you can actually just go to our website as well, totalfreedomevents.com/profit power plans. And then if there's gonna be so many links at the bottom where you can tap in and connect with us personally. You can find me if you want to find me personally. I'll be on Facebook at Devann Edwards. I'll be on Instagram Devann Edwards, and then YouTube Devann Edwards. Well, you can find me in the other places, but we are mainly tapping into our email marketing world. So if once you get the ebook, and then you can get some more further accountability insights through our newsletters that we post out. So that should be fun for you guys as well.
I have no doubt that it is packed full of value by any stretch of the imagination. So if you guys are an entrepreneur, I know a lot of coaches watch this. If you guys are struggling, go talk to Devann and see what's up. Just get that 30-minute call and see. No harm, no foul if it doesn't work, but what if it does? And then what? And then what?
And then what?
Devann, I know that's the great question, right? And then what? Thank you so much for joining me today. I have loved this conversation. I think it's amazing. And when Zay is available, y'all come back and we can, have this conversation again in another iteration. And I would love that.
Most definitely.
So you guys do all the YouTubey things y'all already know, please, And thank you for joining me again for a few short minutes, the pod, where I like to remind you it takes only a few short minutes a day to physically rewire your brain. You just have to be present, you have to be mindful, and you have to watch your thoughts. I love you. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.